I want to deal with a bigger insult, man. The heat. It's coming down hard. We got to get our shit together. Now, we always been loose. Dealing off the turf like it was never gonna run dry, that ain't no business. No other game is run so disorganized. Look around. Everything that is taking care of business is together. Dig it tight. And together.
Except us.
Right. And now we feeling the heat. And the action's gonna get scarce, and the turf is gonna get hard.
What are you saying, Bill? Now, we've seen these times before.
Never so heavy as now.
Well, I don't see any other way other than to ride it out.
There is a way. We organize.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Disclaimer! Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature.
You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
You haven't.
Hey, John, what do you want us to take away from this extraordinary series of yours?
Well, I want people who are not Latin to have Latin envy and wish they had been born Latin, and for Latin people to realize, damn, being Latin is a superpower, man. I mean, the things that we've suffered in this country, 500 years, our wealth was stolen from us. We were lynched. We were burned, shot alive. We've been the only American citizens that have ever been deported by the millions. And yet we contribute and we build and we thrive.
To me, if you have been here for 5 years and you do not have a criminal record, you will be able to go on the dignity status for 7 years.
That status is like a probation period.
You will not be deported. You will not lose your assets. You can work anywhere in the country. You will pay taxes.
And there would be an additional tax.
A new levy of 1.5 withholding called the dignity levy will be held from your paycheck. You will not have access to any government program and will have to buy your own health insurance.
And another charge.
You will pay $700 a year for 7 years, and that adds up to around $5,000. Those $5,000 will represent around $45 billion.
This is provided that the undocumented immigrants total 10 million, but there are more.
And that fund will go to pay for border security. The other bucket of money, the 1.5, will go to re-educate or retrain any American who believes that he or she has lost his opportunity, his job opportunity, to an undocumented.
Some of the other legislators who support the bill said they are aware that it is not perfect. They said it's better than doing nothing.
Various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks. We done to the immigrants. We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But could I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both.
Doing a great job with the heart these days.
You late again, Eddie.
I know what you've been trying to do. You ain't gonna do it. See, Big Red done pulled my coattail to you a long, long time ago.
That's bullshit, Eddie. You talking crazy.
Crazy like a mother fox. And you, I can see through your jive ass like glass, nigga. Eddie, you got it all wrong, man. Stealing my moves, my style, nigga. Even trying to riff like me. Hey, man, why don't you get your boy out of here and detox him? You on my spot, Flash? Slum-dwelling, scum-sucking, slug-ass motherfucker. You on my spot, Flash? Huh? Well, you ain't gonna get it, cause you ain't got it.
These kind of boys seems innocent, Boogie. Got everybody on the post thinking he's a strong black buck. White boys envy his strength, his speed, power in his swing. Then this colored champion lets those same white boys call him Shine or Sambo.
Whoa, Lord.
And he just smiles.
Dream about the time when I was a little boy.
Can't talk.
The night would get blue.
Can barely read or write his own name. And don't care. He'll tell you they like him. Or that colored folks ain't supposed to have but so much sense.
Yes, he would.
You know the damage one ignorant Negro can do. We were in France in the First War. We'd won decorations. But the white boys had told all them French gals that we had tails. Then they found this ignorant colored soldier. Paid him to tie a tail to his ass and run around half naked making monkey sounds. They put him on a big round table in the Cafe Napoleon. Put a reed in his hand, crown on his head, blanket on his shoulders, and made him eat bananas in front of all them Frenchies. Oh, the white boys danced that night. Passed out leaflets with that boy's picture on it. Called him Moonshine, king of the monkeys. And when we slit his throat, you know that fool asked us what he had done wrong. My daddy told me we got to turn our backs on his kind, Wilkie. Close our ranks to the chitlins, the collard greens, the cornbread style. We are men, soldiers. And I don't intend for our race to be cheated out of its place of honor and respect in this war because of fools like CJ. You watch everything he does. Everything.
You said your people have been fighting for 400 years.
Man, your peoples too.
So I just want you to explain what you mean by that.
You know what I'm talking about. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, man. Don't sit up here and try to bait and not know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the I talk about when I say these things. Your people too.
Explain it. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
Radio Raheem, I don't have to explain what's understood, man. You know what I mean by that. You know what I say about it. I ain't got to go further. And if anybody don't understand that, then God be with them. Go look up the history. Go look up the history. Don't everybody believe in Google? Go Google that. See what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what. I dare you to sit up there and say, explain. You know what I'm talking about, man. He's fighting people. You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this day. To this day. To this day. You just sit here, you don't know.
And since the American white man has used his control over the press, rewrite history or retell history, and since the white man can't dispute this truth, it's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here, it's truth. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated, it's truth. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate, that's truth.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to We Up Report. Before we get into everything else, we must first always give out to those who are contributors to this show. And we like to give this shout out here. And much congratulations and thanks to this brother here. We call him Mr. Spence 0620 for his generous donation. Cash App. Brother, you never have to apologize, because what you do, what others don't do, you actually make up for those that don't even think about. When there's people like shows like this that do what we do, all little contributions help. You don't know how hard it is. As a matter of fact, I even gonna give you some stories. The reason why I didn't do Sunday when I was already ready to go, but I'm gonna tell you about it as we go. But my family and I, we are very indebted and always in gratitude for what you do and continue to do, brother. You'll never ever have to worry about what you got to apologize, because you always 100 in my book, copacetic, all that. Hope your family and all, however anybody want to consider this as being a celebration, but I hope that y'all had a good time. And to my family, to yours, we are thankful for your Cash App. Now, again, for those of you who are new that came by here, go down the aisle, happen to see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. So some of you might have read the description. Some of you might have clicked on because you've seen the thumbnail or the title in itself. So what are you going to talk about here, Mr. Blows Your Minds? Well, we're going to talk about why Eyes Was Off Flint. Let me say that one more again. While Eyes Was Off Flint. Now, Flint being Flint, Michigan, right? And the crisis that happened over there since 2014, and some new updates that happened. And for those of you being preoccupied with everybody else's business, and you should happen to be Indigenous American, right? Aboriginal American, some say Black American, African American, some even say they Moors, right? Need ye all the above, all umbrella term that we all wrapped up, depending on your family from the South of the 13 rebel tribes, we call Black American. Some will have problems with that. But until everybody comes to that level, we will address everybody where they at and bring them along as needed. We don't, in this thing that's happening, we don't cut nobody off. We support. And as we go on, we're going to talk about some of those things. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about. So, you know, a lot of people, we've been preoccupied with stuff that's going over in the Levant, things that's been going over in Europe when it comes to Russia and those things. And it seems that we have a lot of fervency for everybody else but our own. And when it's things of our own, I noticed as I didn't, for some of y'all might have seen this, went from day, because again, originally I was going to do it Sunday. I had it already set for Sunday. Since I'm here, let me go ahead and tell you why when I do stuff like this, y'all, you know, I think sometimes people think that when I say that I'm just speaking, I'm just talking, or maybe I'm hustling or I'm grifting, right? When I put that up there, there's a reason why I do that. Let me tell y'all what happened to me on Sunday. As I was prepared to get ready for this show on Sunday, from Saturday to get to Sunday, by 10 a.m. on Sunday morning, my lights got cut off. Think about that, on a Sunday, okay? Cut my lights off. Now, remember the shows I had been doing, right? Cut my lights off, so guess what happened? You can't talk to nobody. So that means Sunday, I can talk to somebody on Monday. And the way that it was done, I'm like, it didn't make no sense, right? But it is what it is. And that in itself, I have to look at it because, see, people could be amongst me in here listening, talking as I do my dissertation and things like that, right? So when I put that up there and do that, you don't know the things in the background. Some may say, I don't even understand the things that you do. Maybe what you're doing is hickory dickory dock. It's really, you know, simplistic. Some people may see the value in it. But when I do that, it's because there's things in the back that you don't understand. When people like would do these things and laying out stuff, sometimes you don't get to see the background. But that's what happened. So I was like, okay, coincident. And then how I had to go through the whole monotonous to even get it, because the way they did it, it was like, I've never seen that ever happen in my life. And I, you know, and I was under the circumstance like, I mean, you can do that, made the mistake, and then say, well, based on the mistake, well, you had to resolve it. And it was, yeah, but coincidence. We're gonna put it that way. It was a coincidence, right? So when I do that, y'all, it's because things behind the scene. Yeah, cut my stuff off. I got a comment here. Let me see what this comment here, right? Right. Let me see. I got a comment here, Mr. Spence. What's good, Mr. Spence? Glad to see you here, brother. Again, you never have to apologize for all you do and how you been doing. You don't got to apologize for nothing, bro. You got a life. I know you got things. And when you do, you actually support for other people who don't do it. So hats off to you. I'm always indebted to you. Never have to worry about that. So anyway, so I'm glad to see you here, brother. And hopefully that you and yours, and that's the slow, so everybody can see that I'm not just talking in there. That's that brother right there who do so much. I consider him like the executive director of a show like this. And that's Mr. Spence 0620. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and let's get him there. So again, so we've been preoccupied with so many things going on in the world, but when it comes to dealing with our own, and I noticed that in the corner, none of our people didn't act like it's, you know, we talk about it. Seems like everybody can go all out. They can show their expressions, their feelings. And it's not being sympathetic that seeing people, their turmoil, deaths, being in war. Of course, that's who we are. We're going to do that. But it seems that we're a little bit apprehensive to show affection for our own. Got love for everybody else but our own, right in our own backyard, whether you live in Flint or not, but pertain to the group in itself. Their problem is all our problem, because what happens there can always be an effect that's going to come to our own backyard, our own front door, if we're not watching. So I decided, let me bring a refresher with some stuff that had just came out that I know a lot of people didn't know. And I want to lay out some things to you that I may not have to go into no long explanation to give the ins and outs. You may see it for yourself, but I am going to show you some stuff, right? So that's what we're going to get into tonight. We're going to talk about that. I got a couple other things inside there, but that's where we're going, right? So let me go ahead and get into that. And for all those who celebrate, let's say thanks for taking day, hats off to you. Happy taking your land day, right? Thanks for taking my land, right? So to each his own. Hopefully some of y'all, maybe around your family, introducing themselves to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube called WeUpReport. Again, some of y'all haven't subscribed to my other channel, because remember I said, since I can't get nothing here, been doing this since 2012, right? Coming on another year, going to be 12 years, coming around that clock. Can't make no money off of here. So go over to WeUpReport. Go over there, subscribe for me if you can. If you haven't already, do that at least that much of me. And let's see how to get around that. Right now, it seems like it stopped at 20 and hasn't moved since then. The channels I've done before got about 23, can't go no more. Okay, ironic, it is what it is. All right, so anyway, I want to get those out the way. But I appreciate each and every one of y'all that come over here and trying to listen to see what Mr. Blow Your Minds is talking about. Again, the most hated show in the black corner in there. So let's look at this right now. When you talk about Flint, you know there's an ironicness. As those of you who are avid watchers of my show over here, I've always sometimes I take movie clips and themes and stuff, and then I, do analytical expressions towards it. But y'all remember, any of y'all see this movie here? You ever see this movie right here? You ever seen that before? Three the Hard Way. Have any of y'all ever seen that movie? Right? Three the Hard Way. Now, what was Three the Hard Way about? Three the Hard Way, according to what they said, was a secret plot of black genocide. That's what this movie was saying it was about. There was a secret plot of black genocide that's probably been concocted by what they call a nefarious, they call him Monroe Feathers. Monroe Feathers, right? And he was supposed to be the leader of this, what they call a secret neo-Nazi white supremacist organization, right? But he had this chief scientist whose name was Dr. Fortero, okay? And who they had developed a lethal poison that only affected African Americans. Let me say that one more time. The movie that was done, now keep this in mind, June 26, 1974, called Three the Hard Way. We had Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, Jim Kelly. The movie was based on a secret plot on black people, concocted by what they call was this nefarious Monroe Feathers, who is supposed to be this leader of a secret neo-Nazi white supremacist organization, who had a chief scientist named Dr. Fortero, who this Fortero had developed a lethal poison that only affected African Americans. The plan was to deploy this serum that they made into the water systems of Washington, D.C., Detroit, Los Angeles. Let me say that one more again. They were to develop a lethal poison to affect only African Americans. The plan was to plot the serum into the water systems of Washington, D.C., Detroit, and Los Angeles in order to wipe out their black population. This is a movie they did back in 74 that was released in 74. Okay? Now, some of you might have seen that movie, right? See, when you seen in the thumbnail, you kind of seen that there, right? You see that scene there, right? Those who you remember, y'all seen that, right? When they was out there, pulled the flagpole up, and then he said some things. There's no, power on this earth that can stop us now, right? Remember that? There's no power on this earth that can stop us now, right? So that's what you see in there, in depicting in that thumbnail. You see that in there, right? Now, am I saying, what I'm saying is the correlation to the thumbnail that you're seeing and some of the things that's being said, right? So, you know, we have to always think about some of the things that are taking place. We have to think about Mortimer's, the Dukes, right? Randolph and Mortimer Dukes. And that would be the architects, right? Things that's behind the scenes, things in the smoke-filled rooms, right? And so we're going to get into that. As I lay this out, as you've seen in that thumbnail, you see them, right? Like they over the Flint water, huh? I got them over the Flint water. That's the Flint River there. That they over, right? Okay, I got a comment here. Let's see what's right here, right? Oh, okay. Mr. Spence say, yes, sir. I personally think the water is making us gay. Okay, right? That's what Mr. Spence say. He said he personally think that the water is making us gay. There's a brother named, what was his name? Tyrone. What was Tyrone's last name? But that brother had talked about, he was calling it, what he said, what was the name of that? What was the name of that? It was in the water. I think I talked about it before. Just slipped my mind. I just had it for a second. Hold on. Give me 1 second. He said atrazine. That was it. Atrazine, right? He had came out and said that atrazine, and then he talked about the experiment that they did and then how the frogs, male frogs started to, and this is how they learned about what atrazine supposedly do. But when you actually go and find out how they make, which one is that? I think it's the cream. I think it's for, is it suntan lotion? I think that's how they said they found that the frogs fell into the water and it stripped the melanin off of them. I think that's what, right? So I think that's how they did it. They came up with, and you know what I'm saying, all that eating and stuff, we kind of slowed up in it. But anyway, right? So as expensive of other things, right? But you're right though, bruh. Yeah, it could be, again, atrazine in the water. Could be, because I see some things we talked about because it sits in the plastic and how it, you know, kind of formulates and then it can turn into something. We never know, right? We never know. We just know that things, for those of us who've been around a little bit and we see how today is, that was not at that time, and then there's just blossom of how the world is right now for many of us. It's a brand new world out here. It's a very brand new world. Some to us, it's a strange world, but it's a world that we kind of adopt into some way, but it's not getting better, right? It's like somebody is on the throttle, pushing it, going even further. So I can kind of agree with you. I mean, not kind of agree. I do agree with you on that. But I can only say we allegedly believe that. We don't know for a fact, right? Because, you know, they say in this country, there's no such thing as a conspiracy. So, but we're going to tread on that. We're going to go into the things that happen as an update in Flint, give you a little history of that. And maybe you see some things, maybe you won't see some things, but we're going to go there. But before we go there, let's go here. Let me ask y'all a question. Let me ask you a question before I go to this. Can there be let's see, how can I say this? Intentional accident? Is there such thing as an intentional accident? Is there such thing as intentional accident? What about how can another way I could say this? On purpose accident. Can somebody intentionally do an accident? Most people will say, yeah, based like cars. Somebody crashing the car to get the insurance money, right? Okay. So this story here that I'm about to show y'all that was out there, there's a little strangeness to it, but then I want to lay some things out for you to see it. Then you just tell me what you think. Some of y'all might have heard of this story. Some of you might not have heard the story, but let me just give you the headline of it right quick, right? Did y'all see this? Did y'all see this? Man arrested on suspicion of manslaughter in Adam Johnson's death. Did y'all see that? Man, see, they say man arrested, right? Man, right? Man arrested on suspicion of manslaughter in Adam Johnson's. Now, I myself am not a hockey fan, observer, but I do remember when in the Olympics when the U.S. team did come back and win. Do you believe in miracles? I did see that. I did watch that game because they had hyped it up so much that I ended up watching the game, and I be there. That shit did happen, but it did, right? But in this case here, just in case you don't know what happened, let me show you what they. Let you see this, and we'll come back. Check this out. Be right back.
The former NHL player Adam Johnson left his family and fans heartbroken and shocked.
Just think it's awful. We really are one big family.
Now police are investigating whether what happened on the ice October 28th was manslaughter. This video showing the moments before Johnson was injured when the skate of an opposing player cut him in the neck. The 29-year-old from Minnesota was pronounced dead at the hospital. The other player, 31-year-old Canadian Matt Petgrave. Johnson's aunt, watching from Minnesota, spoke to Sky News before the arrest.
Yeah, we've seen people get cut in hockey, maybe when they've been down on the ice. Have you ever seen this get a skate to the neck like that? Never.
South Yorkshire police say they've been carrying out extensive enquiries to piece together the events which led to the loss of Adam and consulted highly specialized experts in their field. The person arrested on suspicion of manslaughter has been released on bail this morning, police saying the investigation continues. The question, whether any player's actions were an accident or criminal.
Manslaughter cases invariably don't have any intention to kill. What has happened is that through someone's negligence, or indeed their extreme negligence, they have caused the loss of somebody's life.
The tragic death putting a spotlight on safety. The coroner releasing a report calling for more protections, writing that deaths may occur in the future if neck guards or protectors are not worn.
It took something like this to get people to really think about safety issues in the game.
Adam was a great teammate, friend, and member of the Penguins family.
In Johnson's hometown of Hibbing, Minnesota, a celebration of his life last week. His partner paying tribute.
To me, you were everything. You were my home, my best friend, my sounding board, my rock, my safe haven, and the love of my life.
We were unable to reach Matt Petgrave's agent overnight. Johnson's team, the Nottingham Panthers, said his death was a tragic accident. They've now etched his name in the ice at their home arena, and they're playing a memorial game in his honor this Saturday. Guys?
All right, Kelly Kobiea. Kelly.
So I think we back, right? All right, so we back, right? Man arrested on suspicion of manslaughter in Adam Johnson's death. Now, the reason why I want to show you this is because, again, as I asked in the beginning, intentional accident or purpose accident, right? That's the measure we have to look at, right? As we move forward, right? So, again, as you heard in the story, they say a man, right? You might have called his name at the end, but it's kind of funny how they never want to address his name, right? And it was blurry for you to see who it was, but I'm going to show you just in case you didn't get to see who it was. So they're talking about a man was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter in the death of former NFL or NHL. His player name was Adam Johnson, right? He played for the South Yorkshire, England team. And as you see, they got the police involved in this situation, right? Now, the arrest had came like 2 weeks after that incident had happened, and they began to investigate in the situation. And the death of this went back to like October 28th. And they talking about this was an elite ice hockey league. And the throat was cut by the skate in a collision in a championship cup game, which was in Sheffield, England. And the young man that got killed was 29 years old, right? Here's a picture of him there, right? Let me show you a picture of him, right? So that's a young man who, Adam Johnson, right? So let me show you something. I want y'all to see this, right? Now, listen to how they write this story, okay? They did a postmortem, I guess you say, not postpartum, but postmortem examination, which confirmed the death of the fatal neck injury. Again, they talk about the man, right? The man whose identity was not released by the police, okay? He ended up, got arrested. They released him on bail, and he's still pending further inquiries about the investigation, right? And so what they said they're going to do is carry out extensive inquiries to try to piece together the events which led to the loss of Adam Johnson, and that they call this unprecedented circumstances. What they're going to do is they're going to gather highly specialized experts in their field to assist in these inquiries from the health departments and safety departments, right? So what they're gonna do is they're gonna try to see what took place in the game. Was they say this is suspicion of manslaughter? Now it made it see it good. I'm gonna play it so you can see it for yourself. I'm gonna let you as I'm going over. I want you to see it with your own eyes, right? I'm gonna let it play while I'm talking. I want you to see it. Hold on, let me go ahead and no, put that back on there. Hold on. 1 second. I want y'all as I'm talking, I want you to look at this. I want you to look at it, right? All right. But they stop it at a certain point, right? Right? So I want you to see that. So the player who skate cut Johnson neck, his name is Matt Petgrave. Okay. He plays for Sheffield, who you're seeing on your screen there, right? Now, they say that Petgrave skated towards Johnson, collided with another Panther player, where his left skate kicked up as he began to fall, and the blade hit Johnson in the neck. Is that what y'all, okay? Right? Said both players landed on the ice. Petgrave immediately got on his feet, rose more slowly, and was helped off the ice. His jersey was covered in blood. He died later at the hospital, right? Now, they had been talking about using neck protection devices, okay, but they didn't, right? Now, what I want you to see is they're saying that it was intentional. As you see that replay there, somebody is trying to get in front of him to block him. Like somebody, enough bump. We don't know how much force. We don't know how strong he is, but what you see could that make his leg come up like that? They said they'd never seen a move like that. But I did a little research, y'all. I came with a couple things. I seen a college hockey, some similar to that. Right, let me show you something. Let me show you. I seen this here. Let me show y'all. Now this is a college game. Watch this. Here's the individual who they say in the game, the first game you seen with Adam Johnson. This is the individual who they say who is Matt Petgrave, who they say suspicion of manslaughter. Now you seen in the college game, man got hit, right? Let me show it as I'm saying it, right? You see, or no, go in the college game. No, go, yeah, the slow play, that's a good one. Slow replay, so they can see that while I'm saying it, right? Put the slow replay on. Okay, right? So you can see he's bumped, and you see his leg swings up, right? His leg swings up. So it's possible the bump, momentum, throw you off balance, right? So they're saying this young man here, that his leg went up intentionally to slash the man in his neck. But you've seen it with your own eyes, right? Put that one back up on there so you can see again, right? You see him there, but they cut it right there. They cut the video right as his leg goes up, right? So, okay, in sports, a full contact sport, matter of fact, I think the only sport that allows you to get out there and get fisticuffs, right? Every other sport break it up immediately. When in NBA, soon they start to square up, they already breaking it up. Football ain't too much you can. If you play football, you can get up under the helmet, get a couple, right? But you ain't gonna fight too long. But in hockey, you square it up, right? You can go toe to toe in the middle of a cell, right, and get it off. So it's a high contact sport, and the fact that you got skates already, when I seen this, I thought about it because when I grew up, but they used to sometimes freeze the park. And we would go to the field house and, to get the skates, you leave your shoes to get the skates. Now, I'm in the hood. We don't know. We just skating, but we really kind of playing, who could knock somebody the hell out or down with skates on. Really, we just, rough and tumble. We ain't playing no hockey, but the field house we used to go to, we could do that. So, okay. So we never thought about somebody could have got their damn neck cut on some skates. So here it is in hockey professional who've been playing this for years. That should be something that should be conscious in their mind. I mean, we should be having some kind of neck guards or something out here because something like that could happen. So here's a situation that doesn't happen, and they say manslaughter. Now they want to make a comparison about something that happened some years back. I want to show you this too. Now I want you to see the difference. Though. Now, here was another situation back in 1988. His name is Dino, I think it is Coccarelli, I think it is Dino Coccarelli. Now watch this. I want you to see this. Let me go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Luke Richardson gave Cicerelli a shot in the back. Cicerelli responded with a vicious stick attack on the Leafs rookie. He was thrown out of the game with a match penalty for intent to injure. Well, today, Cicerelli had a hearing with NHL. Luke Richardson gave Cicerelli a shot in the back. Cicerelli responded with a vicious stick attack on the Leafs rookie. He was thrown out of the game with a match penalty for intent to injure. Well, today, Cicerelli had a hearing with NHL. Luke Richardson gave Cicerelli a shot in the back. Cicerelli responded with a vicious stick.
For some reason, I think Marty McSorley's been in a few jackpots here before playing with Edmonton.
Now, what you see there?
Let's go back and see this hit, and we'll catch it. Oh. I think Marty, in all fairness, he was trying to tap him in the shoulder, but you're very responsible for your stick, and this is not good. And there'll be an unbelievable. For some reason, I think Marty McSorley's been in a few jackpots here before playing with Edmonton in LA. Let's go back and see this hit, and we'll catch it. Oh. I think Marty, in all fairness, he was trying to tap him in the shoulder. He's moving his hand. But, I mean, was it Brashear's time up to be on the ice or what? I mean, he was out there. He skated 4 or 5 strides to make a hit in Hal Gill. And hopefully he's all right. But down at the other end, John Graham now has got a hold of Garth Snow.
Oh, it appears that Donald Brashear is bleeding from the nose. I don't know what Marty McSorley was thinking, Gary.
In all honesty, I didn't see that. I was watching the puck in the corner. For some reason, I think Marty McSorley's been in 2 jackpots here before, playing with Edmonton and L.A. Let's go back and see this hit, and we'll catch it. Oh. I think Marty, in all fairness, he was trying to tap him in the shoulder. But, you know, you're very responsible for your stick. And this is not good, and there'll be an unbelievable... he's moving his hand. But, I mean, was it Brashear's time?
Now, let me show you what the difference is. Now, this incident, you have the brother that you see on your screen, right? Matt Petgrave. He's the one that ended up with Adam Johnson, where his skate went up, caught him in the neck. But they said suspicion of manslaughter. The second one you seen that you probably didn't recognize was this brother right here. Let me show you this brother right here. Right? The one that the dude hit with the stick was a brother. Right? His name is Donald Brashear. Okay? He was the one that you seen lastly where the dude just cold-cocked him. Marty Sorsley. I think it's Sorley or whatever his name, something like that. Right? Well, he just cold-cocked him. Right? He did. You seen him? I showed him when he was laid out. He didn't move. None of it. He barely killed him. You see how his head fell and hit on that ice? Straight. Helmet came off. Everything. Right? Okay. He ended up getting suspended. They dropped the case. They charged him with, I think, with just battery, and that was it. But this brother here, right? The other brother, they said suspicion.
For some reason, I think Marty McSorley's...
Hold on. Yeah, I got some real technical difficulties over here, y'all. I'm gonna try to get through it. So they saying that what happened with him was more intentional. But you seen that it was kind of like somebody was cutting him, bumping him. His leg did go up. So the problem becomes here, what's intentional? What's purpose and what's intentional? This is what I'm talking about before we go where we're going, because keep that in mind. Keep what we're talking about. Difference between intent and purpose. Can it be intentional accident, purpose accident, or is it just an accident? And if there should be, who gets to make that call? And if everything lines up, everything's supposed to fall accordingly, correct? All right. Keep that in mind. Now, again, we're not taking either side on about the hockey set with the Adam Johnson. It is what it is, but I just think it's about intent. How can you say the intent? Now, if somebody just threw their leg up and he had nobody come in, brush off him or nothing, maybe you could say that. Maybe he did have intent. How do you prove that? And by it being in sports and a high contact game, you know, is that part of the game? It's like boxing. I've seen a couple of boxers that died in the ring before, right? They don't charge nobody. I know it's boxing, right? Skating. But skating is part of the game because, again, skates is part of the game. if somebody fall wrongly and fall across the neck and get cut, it's part of the game. But you saying his leg went up, but if his leg went up based on the fact that he got bumped, could that also not be intentional? But they said manslaughter. So you might hear more about this story as time go on, but I want to, the whole premise of me using this here is we need to look what they mean by intent, purpose, intentional purpose. Is there such thing as intentional purpose, or is that just a figure of our imagination? So now, let's go here now, right? So now we're gonna go to Flint. We're gonna go to Flint now. Okay, keep that purpose, intentional accident, and then we're gonna go down the line on some stuff. So be right back.
You're hoarding. You're playing each piece like losing it hurts. This ain't checkers. You want my king. You got to come get my king. All these other pieces are just a means to do it. Every time you make a good run at me, I just threaten your queen and back you go. You're treating her like she's the last lady on earth. Your queen is just a pawn with a lot of fancy moves, nothing more. When you see you playing a man who feels naked without his lady, use her. Jump in there and take her. Tease her, threaten her, and he won't be able to think about his game anymore. That's when you make your real move. It's good. It's better. You like that horse, don't you? You like his crazy jumps all over the board. You think he's your friend. You hate to lose him almost as much as you hate to lose that lady. Well, he is your friend, boy. They all are. But you're gonna have to use him just like you use the other. If he falls by the wayside, well, that's just life's little game, ain't it? And until you come ready to play a game, you'll never beat her at it.
Check.
You're hoarding.
Says the ominous change in the water was particularly noticeable at bath time.
My youngest would tell me, Mom, it's yellow and it's a filmy, gross, foamy thing, and it would smell like open sewer. But we were being told we're still getting used to the new system. It's safe. It's okay.
But it wasn't okay. Far from it. Flint's tap water was laced with dangerous levels of lead. The state knew about it and did nothing.
The trouble began 2 years ago when the state decided to switch Flint from Detroit's drinking water to a new system. But the new system wouldn't be ready for 2 years. In the meantime, to save money, they switched to the Flint River water.
3, 2, 1.
That first decision turned out to be a mistake, as did nearly every step the state took after it. Michigan's Department of Environmental Quality shoulders much of the blame, what a preliminary task force report calls an abysmal public response. At the time, the state agency told Flint it didn't have to add an anti-corrosive agent to the water, saying it was not necessary until 2 6-month monitoring periods had been conducted. In other words, they were willing to wait a year to see whether the water was safe. All the while, highly corrosive river water flowed through the city's lead pipes, leaching lead and other dangerous metals into the water supply, and what came out of the tap in many homes was toxic. Almost immediately, residents started complaining. Their water was brown. Some people developed rashes, became sick. Early tests revealed fecal coliform bacteria. So the city and state officials added chlorine to the water supply and told people to boil their water. Both mistakes which can actually increase the level of lead.
I built this place with my tax money.
At city meetings, residents were repeatedly told the water was safe.
We found the worst lead and water contamination that I have seen in 25 years, and believe me, I've seen a lot.
Residents didn't find out about the lead until this man stepped in. Mark Edwards is a Virginia Tech researcher who tested the water early last year.
It was very scary to see the levels of lead that were hazardous waste, levels of lead coming out of her tap water.
That's right. The lead levels in one home were so high, water from the tap could be considered hazardous waste. His testing led to this EPA memo, an interim report which was leaked last summer. It said the high levels of lead in the water were especially alarming because the state's water testing was flawed, so the true lead levels were probably much higher.
We were just waiting for the appropriate authorities to help Flint residents to enforce federal law.
When Flint's former mayor asked the EPA for more information, he was shot down, as you can see in this email exchange obtained by CNN. The EPA regional director writes, "The preliminary draft report should not have been released outside the agency, and that only when the report is revised and fully vetted will it be shared with the city." But that wouldn't happen until months later. Meanwhile, families were still drinking water poisoned with lead. The EPA blames the state, saying in a statement to CNN, what happened in Flint should not have happened, and that the EPA's ability to oversee was impacted by failures and resistance at the state and local levels. The state was continuing with its own mistakes, according to Mark Edwards, butchering around a water testing. They not only tested the wrong homes, but altered the reports, eliminating tests from 2 homes that would have shown toxic levels of lead. The state says the changes were legitimate.
They fabricated a report that made it appear like Flint was passing the lead and copper rule with flying colors.
In the fall, the government admitted that there was lead in the water and Flint was switched back to Detroit's water supply. But it wasn't until earlier this month that the state of Michigan started bringing in bottled water and declared a state of emergency.
All right. So let's say we back, right? Got a message here, right? I'm gonna get to that message right there, right? All right. So appreciate everybody stopping by. Again, I got some technical difficulties, and I'm not surprised. Right? I'm not surprised. Hold on one second, y'all. Yeah. All right. Can you put that up there for me, sir? Should go up there, right? Okay, let me see what this message said real quick. Got a message. Aboriginal knowledge in the house. What's good? Aboriginal knowledge. What's good to you, sir? Glad to see you on this. Thanks for taking our land day or weekend or day after, right? Okay, so ex-Michigan, you talking about the Governor Snyder and 8 others criminally charged with Flint Water Crisis. That was back in January 21st of 2021. When they initially did that, right? So as that video showed you, talked about how you see the woman that came on there talking about how it became apparent to them is because of the ominous change in the water. I guess the kid was the first one to see it in her house, and the color of it, the smell of it. Now again, we can see that when certain people get more attention than maybe others, because I'm not going to say whether they were the first of it. Again, matter of fact, when they did a liquid blanket one night, there was a term they used, Agent Zero. I think that's what it is, a patient zero. So somebody in Flint had to be patient zero, but according to this news report, you've seen who was in there, right? And said that accordingly, she informed of the agency, and they said that it was still safe and okay for them to consume it. Now they want to say drinking water, but water in itself is used for many other things other than just drinking. People bathe in it, right? Use it for, water has a lot of uses. So according to, as you heard in that video, they said it was laced with lead. They said the state recognized and nothing was done. State with the changing. Okay, so what happened was they were changing from the drinking system to another one. And that's how they end up getting into that Flint River. I'm going to tell you about how it originally was with the Detroit water system, or I think it's Detroit Sewer and Water Department. And what a lot of people don't know about in Detroit is Detroit was going through some stuff starting from 2012, 2013 it takes place. And then I'm going to show you as we go on more, I'm going I'm going to give you that part because you need to know that too. So they talk about how they end up switching the, okay. And they talk about how the Environment Equality Preliminary Task Force said they had said it was abysmal public response. And when they showed you about the water, then they showed you that they didn't have to add the anti-agent, corrosive agent, they said, right? So they were using water that, anybody know anything about the Water Reclamation Center and what it does, right? It filters, purifies, and what is necessary to make the water recyclable, so bad water turn into good water. I remember, I think it was in high school, maybe it was in grade school or high school. We went on a field trip to one. If you know the stuff that if you go to Water Reclamation Center, you won't even drink the water after you see what they process and what they do to get clean water, right? But that's what they have to do. In order to get clean drinking water, it's going to be recycled from, you know what I'm saying? So there's a process that needs to be done. So I want you to keep all this in mind. Check in mind. Processes need to be done when you're talking about filtration of water. So in this case, they're talking about the anti-agent corrosive to the water that's supposed to have been added. They said, according to the policies, that it needed to run 2 6 months instead of them saying a year. They said 2 6 months before they was fine to do any testing. So that means they gave that a whole year running right off the bat before, even if it was something wrong, it was going to take a year before they was even going to test it, right? It talks about how again, they talk about how the fecal, they called it was fecal form bacteria found in the water. We know what fecal is, right? Fecal matter. And then you heard them talk about how if they added chlorine and then they told them to boil the water, then you heard in the video where she said it was creating an increasement of lead. And said, according to the video, it still was considered safe to consume. But they said when they finally tested, according to that video, it said the water was and could be considered hazardous waste. Anybody got a CDL? Got to take that hazmat test because you're traveling or delivering right? You got to know about chemicals and if spills. Wait a minute, cut out your faucet. Right? And then you heard the individual that was the one that came and did the testing. He said that they had rigged the tests for the waters, and so that they could not be considered hazardous waste. They were having false readings to contrive as safe. Right? Now remember, this is Flint, which is a black population predominantly living there. They talked about how the EPA leaked memo stated that the preliminary draft repost should not, they said, they told them they was not supposed to put that out. And that they said that it was never supposed to be released outside the agency. And when the report had been revised and fully vetted, now, let me say that one more again, not to have been released to the public until it was fully revised and vetted. Make sure it had to say accordingly before it could be released. But somebody released a pure draft of what it had said, and that's how the information got out beyond from their organization. You know, 9 times it's contained to keep it inside. but somebody is a whistleblower, end up revealing it. And so they said the EPA management, the findings and the recommendations will be shared with the cities, and the report was fabricated to appear clear. So based on what that video was saying, there was a lot of things of neglect based on people in positions, or whether the fact that it's because who was the population, or the fact that they had no alternative. We would think that these, let's say, institutions and these so-called facets of institutions are there for safeguard. But in this case, when it comes to Flint, it seemed like there was a lot of failures. And so what you see on your screen, that's what they put out in January 21st of 2021, right? So they going after the governor, and then 8 other criminally charged with this here, right? And so according to what they say, they were saying there were 42 counts for what took place, what they call the drinking water catastrophe. Now, again, they're saying drinking water, but water is used more than just drinking. People bathe in it, right? And again, the biggest organ on the body is the skin, and, absorbing. And so, not just the fact of consuming of drinking, you're bathing in it, which is even probably worse than drinking, because your body absorbing it, right? So they also said that there were crimes ranged from perjury to misconduct in office and to involuntary manslaughter. Okay. In the hockey, we've seen that they had suspicion of manslaughter. And this here, they have involuntary manslaughter being part of the charge. According to at the time when they did this article here, they said it was linked to at least 12 deaths. 80 people were sickened. They even talked about Legionnaire's disease. They was talking about Legionnaire's disease. I had a friend. Mark been gone for about, let's see, Mark died back in 92, 93. He died from Legionnaire's disease. And I remember the time when it happened to him, we had been kicking it, playing video games and all that, but I don't remember drinking no water while I was over there. And one day, things started changing. He was changing. He, was losing weight and all that other stuff. And next thing you know, he was in the hospital. I was going to go see him, and they told me, say, he's about to go home. So I didn't go see him. And guess what? He passed. But he had Legionnaire's disease. And by me doing my research on this, I found out that Legionnaire's disease got something to do with when the water ain't filtrated. When there's no filtration in the water, you can catch Legionnaire's disease, right? So they said that they also said that the Flint River caused lead to leach from the old pipes, right? Now keep that in mind. They said that the lead is leaching from the pipes. And then they said, also in the article, talking about how poison in the majority Black city water system. Okay. Black majority. So this area that this is happening is more concentrated Aboriginal, Indigenous, Indigenous, Needy Moors, Black Americans, African, all of them who call themselves, right? This is the area that is being affected the most, more than everybody else, right? And so when you go in this article, you'll see all the different charges and stuff that is being on each and every person of the 42 charges, and you'll see those charges in there, right? Now, this was so big of the time that it had to go up to Washington to the congressional hearing. Here's a little bit of that, just in case you didn't know.
Ability only works when it's plausible, and I'm not buying that you didn't know about any of this until October 2015. You were not in a medically induced coma for a year. And I've had about enough of your false contrition and your phony apologies. Susan Hedman from the EPA bears not 1/10 of the responsibility of the state of Michigan and your administration, and she resigned. And there you are, dripping with guilt, withdrawing your paycheck, hiring lawyers at the expense of the people, and doing your dead-level best to spread accountability to others and not being accountable. It's not appropriate. Pretty soon, we will have men who strike their wives saying, "I'm sorry, dear, but there were failures at all levels." People who put dollars over the fundamental safety of the people do not belong in government. And you need to resign too, Governor Snyder.
Oversight was our responsibility. We took that seriously, and we conducted it. Does that mean I don't have regrets? Because I'd really like
no,
to
that's a whole different standard. Everybody can say that's cheap. Oh yeah, we just got regrets. That's a cheap. That's cheap.
Well, so you have to look at how the law works, and we did.
Yeah, you know what? And it failed. You failed. You said, quote, if there is anything I could do, if there was any switch I could pull, you had that under the law, and you didn't do it.
No, sir, I did not have that under the law.
Yes, you did. If there is an imminent threat, there is an imminent threat, you can pull that switch. And you finally did in January. Administrator, you.
I got something going on majorly over here, but we're going to get through it, right? We're going to get through it, right? We're going to get through it, right? So I got some major things holding up my system, so do what I can to get through this, y'all. So again, just in case somebody in here feel like they want to, again, understand what I'm doing here, right? You understand what I'm doing here, right? Nobody else gonna do it, y'all. Told you that they cut me Sunday, right? I don't know what's gonna come after this, right? I don't know what's gonna come after this. Some get it, some don't get it. But I'm just telling you, right? So anyway, you can also hit the like, share, subscribe button. We did get a couple new subscribers. I'm gonna, for those who newly here subscribed, I see those numbers a little bit. So I guess some people are appreciating what I am doing and they at least subscribing. So welcome to the most hated show in Black Corner YouTube. We thank you for subscribing as well. Okay, so now, as you see, that went to Congress, had the hearing about it. This is major. I mean, something like this, in other ethnicities and persuasions of people, just like we've seen some of the incidents that happen around internationally, and everybody is focused and having attention and showing their emotions and feelings and taking their stance. But what happened in Flint seems to be like, well, that's your problem, right? But let me show you what just happened, though, because I'm giving you some bits of what happened, but you don't know what happened just recently. You have no idea what happened recently, right? So let me show you, right? Matter of fact, let me show you how it looked, how they were showing in there. Let me show you this. Look how it was going through the city, right? Let's see. Let's show that, right? So look how that's moving, right? So that's how it works. Go from the river, going through the pipes, and going into the community, right? Now, when you live in an area, we don't even be thinking about, now let's say again, diversity, right? You know how in this country they sell diversity, right? Multiculturalism, all that is good in conversations and the ideal of it. But the reality of it is that lot of us live in concentrated areas where it is mostly us. In places like Chicago, places like Detroit. I'm not saying that every other city, but you have large swath areas where it's dense populations of one particular people. And so we just assume that when we turn on our tap, all the water, everybody has the same water. But when you read about this, you find out that, again, you got to know what happened. Okay, maybe this is a good time for it. So what happened in Flint was Flint, or Detroit itself, went into bankruptcy. Okay, the whole state went into bankruptcy in about 2012. They came in with the emergency manager. They came in there, shut down government, and they had to restructure. Because why? What you don't know is Detroit is the biggest bankruptcy of all time. Let me show you. Okay, you didn't know that, right? See it on your screen now? There was 18 to $20 billion bust. Okay, 2013. You see on the screen, you see the numbers, right? Most of it is about pensions. They got to pay people pensions and stuff like that, tax revenues, right? And if you see a lot of there's some brothers and sisters who do videos that's going through Detroit, and you get to see how the city of Detroit, and you can see the dilapidations of the homes and the vacantness of homes, because Detroit was a vibrant city when we talk about the migration from the South, where they say migration, right? When we left the South, when we start coming into the cities, the metropolitan areas, GM was a good place for a lot of our family members who went up there, got to work at the plantation of GM, and they was able to afford home, because you got to remember, when the time when they were coming, you still got redlining. You got areas that other people, when they talk about today, multiculturalism, diversity, that's not really what's happening. It's really like in your own area. It's kind of like, let's say, 3 miles across on the side of the wall, right? So they have to have areas. So what ended up happening is they worked at the plant. They were able to have enough money. They was able to build homes. And so you have a thriving Black, you know what I'm saying, populace of people who are able to have homes, and they able to be sufficient with their jobs and so forth. And so between that era of, say, 1910, okay, matter of fact, I got a graph here to show you a little bit, as they say. Now, again, I'm not from Detroit. Somebody might be here who from Detroit knows more about it, but I'm just giving it just because nobody's talking about it. People from Michigan and Flint, they're talking about, but none of us on the outside, and we as family as a whole, right, as a group. But as you see, they're talking about how 1840 Detroit into 2012, and as you see on your screen there, you'll see 1950 was its peak, because what ended up happening is GM is going to get out there, right? Because what's happening is more efficient foreign cars are coming. You know, back in the day, we used to talk about the hog, right? Yeah, my fam know what I'm talking about. Jumping in the hog, right? We going down south, we're going in the hog. You know, that mother going to drinking a lot of gas, deuce and a quarter, right? All that good stuff, right? And so GM cars are gas guzzlers. And so now the foreign cars are being able to come in. They're more fuel efficient, more than the gas guzzlers. And then you got in the 70s coming, you got, well, gas go higher. So a lot of people are downsizing. So now cars are not being as much as plentiful, are being taken and made. I mean, they're being made, but people are not buying. So when they cut back, you know how it is. First five, last high, right? But in this case, people of Detroit who've been there, been able to take care of their family and so forth. Now the economic floor that was built by the plantation GM is starting to cut back. And so over time, by 1950, you get to like 2010 and so forth, they, you know, People not working there like that no more. That sustenance of economics isn't there anymore. So now what you have is people who have homes and now defaulting on their taxes, right? And so forth. And so the shift is happening. And so now, 2013, they go through this bankruptcy. And so guess what's going to be happening? When they restructure it, you know, some of the things that happen when they restructure to pay the debtors, there's something that has to be in exchange. I'm talking in code because I can't say everything I want to say, right? I got to talk in a way, right? So there's going to be some things that got to be in exchange. And so somebody said, well, we can take that over there, right? That's expendable because you can't maintain it. You're becoming useless eaters, as they say, right? So you can't, there ain't no tax revenue being made. Taxes, dilapidated areas, right? You can see if you, again, I told a lot of y'all to go over there to watch Detroit, watch the city council meeting. You can see over there, you've been battling, going back and forth about the ARPA funds and all that other stuff. And you could have been seeing that we've been, if you had been going over them, I told you, because it's been all laid out over there, right? And so they go through that, change it up. And so somebody now, what happens is to save money after they go into bankruptcy, you know how when you play Monopoly, the thing in a bankruptcy, when you do it, when you talk about municipalities and cities, the creditors can't take, like, you know how when you play Monopoly, you take, give me your hotels, and no, you can't get that. You can only get utilities and you can get property, right? So let's say if the city owns a parking lot, they can grab that. They can get the water come. So what ended up happening is in 2000 and I think 13 or 14, the Department of Sewer and Water Department, it becomes privatized. So that everybody knows when your utilities start to become privatized, it's kind of the same thing when they talk about prisons, right? When the prisons become privatized, what end up happening? Some of the stuff we were hearing, right? And then the deals that being made that say, okay, we need 80% occupancy, so that, you know, the deal is being made. So we got to keep these things filled, right? So when you get privatized in your water, your service may not be that good, or it's going to be exorbitant prices. So what end up happening? Price go up. People already struggling economically, can't afford the water. So we need an alternative water for this section. We need an alternative for this section. So what ended up happening? There was a place called, I think it's Kiragandi. I think that's the name of it. KWA, Kiragandi Water was building supposedly pipes that was going to be going through. Let me go back, show that again. Give the visual as I said it, so you can see how that river. Hold on, go back. Let me show. Hold on. Let me give y'all the visual, y'all. Let me give y'all the visual. Where it go? Get a visual to that. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Like I said, I got some technical difficulties over here. All right, so here's the visual, right? So they got the Lake Huron is where the Detroit system sewer and water is drawing from that water, their pipeline. So remember, you got Detroit sewer and water department got its line, and then now KWA also was going to come from a pipeline, but was not ready yet. So now the alternative was to go back to the Flint River until they got ready, which they say somebody could have been possibly 2 years before they would be ready. Okay? Because why? It was, remember you heard in the congressional hearing, you heard him say that y'all did this based on the fact that y'all was trying to save money. Right. Because what happens, see, what nobody's saying is they couldn't afford the water. So they had to take the alternative water. And the alternative water ended up being they had to get the river water. Now, the Flint River originally had been bought, I think, back in 1910, and then it was operable in 1930, but then they end up going back to the Detroit because they were having problems, because what it is it can only hold so many gallons. According to what my research said, they need about 20 million gallons a day. So accordingly, they have to filter the water from the Flint River in order for it to maintain, and it's normally an emergency water source. Okay, it's an emergency water source. And so what ends up happening is now it needs to be running on every day. So that means you don't have the facility to keep it running on. It's good for 4 days, but now you got to run it 7. So you know what ended up happening, right? Right? You're not gonna have it as what it should be, right? And that's why you hear them talk about some of the things, right? I'm just giving a little insight to some of the research that I got in there, right? So the intent was to use KWA because it had a pipeline that goes into Lake Huron, but it wasn't ready operable for what they needed. So they had to take the alternative. And so when they took the alternative, this is how they got in the situation, right? Because that river need to be treated daily. And that's why you start hearing them talking about Legionnaires and chlorine, right? Because they needed it to keep it purified. So, okay, so I'm giving you a little bit of the backdrop of some of the stuff that happened in there, right? So now, before we get to that, so before they do the switch, this is what happens there. Let me show you what they happen. So they start going through this problem. This was the problem they start going through because people couldn't afford DSWD water, right? As you see on the screen, Judge ruled he can't stop Detroit water shut off because they were shutting off the waters. They were shutting off the waters for people who could not pay. So imagine having a house, you ain't got no water in it, right? And so let me give you a little knowledge about this, right? So due to the Detroit bankruptcy judge, because it was going through the bankruptcy at this time. Remember I told you 2013, right? So think about 13, they cleaning up, finishing up the bankruptcy, then 14, bam, by April 2014, this when all this began. So but you got the bankruptcy judge. He said that he lacked the authority to issue a restraining order to stop them from shutting off the water for those who were delinquent bills. And they say basically there was no constitutional right to water and they couldn't put a moratorium on it. Let me say that one more again. Due to the fact that Detroit went into bankruptcy, the bankruptcy judge said they lacked authority and that there was no constitutional right to water and a moratorium. Now, when they do a Chapter 9, that strictly limits the courts. See, the city went into Chapter 9, and based on that, and then the company becoming privatized, the courts didn't have jurisdiction to make them not be able to stop to do it, okay? So they had people who were out there, people Water Board and the National Action Network, they were all out there trying to get them stopped there. And so they believed that the case, that a 6-month moratorium was necessary, but they didn't have, it wasn't within their powers to do it. They wanted to give a 6-month moratorium, which would have been kind of like a stay or preventing them from doing it, but they didn't have the jurisdiction. Okay, that's what was going on here, right? So it was Detroit, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties. These areas over in Michigan or Detroit, they were in the process of approving a new Great Lake Water Authority. Now listen to this. Different counties in that area were already trying to get themselves a different water system. Okay. Not all, see, that's what I'm saying. Some of we might be thinking that all water go to everywhere. Now up under that ground is whose pipes and what water is it connecting. Okay. Detroit would remain ownership to us. When you talk about Detroit, would maintain ownership of the region's water and sewer system. And so when we're talking about the counties of Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb, I think it's called Combe, they were going to lease their pipes to the suburbs. So they had water that was coming from the Great Lake Water Authority, and they were leasing theirs to the suburbs. And they was getting $50 million a year for 40 years. Okay, so they had a contract with these other counties. So Genesee County ain't in this. Genesee County is the only one getting that river. They're the only one getting that river water. And so during this process, the lawyers that was representing them, they were trying to look for the appeal to try to change their decision. But what decision could they change? Because it became private. See, because they were saying, well, their position is that water had to be affordable. They weren't looking for free water. They just wanted affordable water. Because remember, as I told you, the whole ordeal was about the fact that DSWD became privatized and then they was charging more money and people couldn't afford it. So let me show you something here so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at it, be right back.
Water war. The city of Detroit started shutting off water to thousands of people for lack of payment.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable, right? Now activist groups and experts from the United Nations are getting involved. Simon Shaquette is live downtown where the drama is unfolding. Simon.
Jeff and Joanne, we were the only station with cameras rolling today as angry Detroiters who've had their water shut off came face to face with the people responsible. It happened right over here at the water department during a public meeting.
I had heard on national news that they was going to classify Detroit as a third world country because people on water's being shut off and they weren't able to afford the payments.
One after another, Detroiters reaching a boiling point over water shutoffs. Shutoffs that impact many families living in homes with small children.
When they get up, they're going to wake up to not brushing their teeth, washing their face, or nothing like that.
Downtown, there's a showdown brewing. A combination of activists who've appealed to the United Nations and angry citizens who say their shutoffs are simply illegal. This doesn't say past due.
No, it doesn't. This is the current bill, and they said it was due on the 7th of July.
I'm with the Michigan Coalition for Human Rights, and we're standing here just in solidarity with people who have been having their water shut off. This can't stand. This is unconscionable. There can't be people without water here in Detroit.
Turns out a public meeting of the Water Board just so happened to be today. We decided to check it out for ourselves.
Every human being has the right to safe drinking water.
If people are being shut off from water because they can't pay, that's a violation of their basic human rights.
The United Nations agrees up to 3,000 shutoffs a week are alarming. Their experts say, quote, disconnection of water services because of failure to pay constitutes a violation of the human right to water and other international human rights. And when there is a genuine inability to pay, human rights simply forbids disconnections. So what does the water department have to say for itself? We tracked down the deputy director.
The average delinquent water bill in the city of Detroit is $560. We're not shutting folks' water bill off for as little as $100. This is not anything new. What the department has done is shed light on the problem and the delinquency problem associated with the city of Detroit.
That's little comfort for Jasmine Woodruff and her boyfriend. They can pay their tab as early as tomorrow, but that won't help them today.
It didn't resolve anything. I have to pay it tomorrow, basically.
Are they going to turn your water back on?
Yes, that's what they say once they get the money.
Congressman John Conyers is also among those critical today of the water department. We'll have to stay tuned and see how this all unfolds. Live downtown, Simon Shaquette, 7 Action News.
Difficulties over here. I got some technical difficulty, but we're gonna work through it. right? So as you see there, that was what was happening. You heard the representative of the, DSWD, and he was saying that, we're not cutting their water off because of $100. The average bill is about $500 some dollars, $500 some dollars, right? Water bill, right? But that's not, saying that was doing, again, the transferring of going privatized what left them to go over to Flint Water. Now, you remember there was also a story about a brother named Moses with his green machine. Remember that? Remember the brother Moses that went up there who knew he has a green machine, a machine that he made that know how to grab the atmosphere like a rain cloud and know how to generate and make water. Remember he went up there, right? You remember he went up there, right? Let me show you this and we'll be right back. Remember he went up there.
Drained fuel. They added something to the coolant lines. They played with electronics. And that's not typical vandal stuff.
Less than a week after bringing free water to Flint, Moses West says the green machine he designed to do just that was vandalized.
Once they broke into the machine and they destroyed the generator, very technical, they knew what they were doing. It wasn't just, random vandalism, not at all. They destroyed the battery, they put metal in the fuel system. I saw that when I was cleaning the fuel filter.
West is a military veteran who travels across the country to areas in crisis, bringing a machine he designed like this one that literally makes fresh water out of thin air. He put the green machine out for people along Saginaw Street on Thursday and was hoping to make a big impact. He says before the vandalism, they were giving hundreds of people free water every day.
You got to look at, I'm making anywhere from 1,200 to 2,000 gallons of water a day. And giving away for free. That's a lot of money out of somebody's pocket someplace.
West says that he can only speculate as to why someone would try to destroy something that was just trying to help the community. West says he hopes to have the green machine back open and working again soon, with some anti-vandalism features added as well.
Right? As the brother there came up with a creation, a way to help under those situations. I think he's been going around the world helping places that have droughts and need water. But when he went there, it seemed like he said there was some sophistications to the vandalism that was happening to his. So he said, no, whoever did this knew what they were doing. This was not some regular, punk who just messing up my machine. No, they knew exactly what they was doing, right? And as he said, if he's giving thousands, 2,000 gallons of water and somebody business is garnering off of this catastrophe, yeah, he might have been digging in somebody's pocket, right? And so, that's that whole thing, capitalism, socialism, which I'm going to talk a little after this, right? So, again, like I told y'all, those, if you're willing to think that what I do over here, again, I've been in business going 12 years. You ain't never heard of me because I'm the most suppressed show in the black corner of YouTube. We do reports. We get what's out there. We bring it to you. I articulate the best of my ability to give you some information. If you see any value in it, we will kindly take any donation that when you do. If not, it's all good, right? So anyway, so that's what happened there, right? So that brother tried to do his due diligence. But y'all also remember this? What about this part here, man? What about this?
The good housekeeping seal of the president to the troubled waters of Flint, Michigan. And Jerika Duncan is there.
Can I get some water?
Before a crowd of 1,000.
I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
President Obama took a sip of Flint's filtered tap water, assuring the people there that he cares.
I've got your back. Not too long ago, I received a letter.
The president singled out 8-year-old Mari Kopeny.
Mr. President.
She wrote him a letter in March expressing her concerns about the water.
How would you describe the Flint water? It's nasty.
Why is it nasty?
It gives you bad rashes and headaches.
Flint's water crisis began 2 years ago after the city switched its water supply from Detroit to the Flint River to save money. The water wasn't treated for corrosion, causing lead to leach from aging pipes. 3 government workers have been charged with misconduct and conspiracy to tamper with evidence. One of them was arraigned today and pleaded no contest. Though officials now say filtered tap water is safe, many, like Paris James, don't believe it.
When they said it was okay, it wasn't really okay.
The single mother's daily routine begins at 6 in the morning. Her 3 children get ready for school using bottled water. She drives them 20 minutes outside of Flint to her parents' house to bathe.
So you refuse to pay your water bill?
Why pay for poison?
To date, the city has handed out more than 24 million bottles of water and over 100,000 filters. Scott, the mayor here, says she wants to replace all of the pipes, but right now there just is not enough money to do that.
Jerika Duncan reporting. Jerika thanked the good housekeeping seal of the president to the troubled waters of Flint, Michigan. And Jerika Duncan is there.
Can I get some water?
Before a crowd of 1,000.
I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
President Obama took a sip of Flint's filtered tap water, assuring the people there that he cares.
I've got your back. Not too long ago, I received a letter.
The president singled out 8-year-old Mari Kopeny.
Mr.
Yeah, they knocked me out, y'all. They had knocked me out, right? They knocked me out on that one. So again, like I said, I'm fighting to finish this off as much as I can. So those might remember that when he went up to Flint, Michigan, and drank, as you heard the announcer say, filtered water, right? The filtered water. He didn't drink the water that was coming from them, right? He didn't come out of that water. My screen is blinking. There's a whole lot going on over here. Okay. So, yeah, right? So, that's just the whole thing, right? You got, again, the Flint Water Crisis. And when you talk about that Flint Water Crisis, let me give you a little stuff to what they say. The people, they said about, I think it was 6 to 10,000 people that were of children who possibly are going to be affected by this. So that means in the future, we're going to be hearing about the cause and effects of what ended up happening in 2014 to a segment of people from, children who are going to be affected by that, right? Because, lead in children and development of mind, and right? So there's going to be some effects. But if you are avid watcher of my show, when they did the payout for the $626 million, and it was mostly businesses and lawyers got the money. And then I think they had the allocation as well as some of the children, but that's not really a lot of money if you think about it, right? If we're talking about tens of thousands of children who possibly could be affected, and I don't know what portion of the $626 million that they're going to get, but I guess as time go on, so those who are hearing, you'll have this part of at least you have a little bit more knowledge about than maybe you didn't know before. When we hear those stories about, we may be hearing about people and being affected and having that, we'll know where it came from. And again, as Malcolm said in the beginning of my introduction, retelling history when you know what happened. So let me give a little bit more to the nuts and bolts of this, right? So look what they did based on what you just seen, what you know as into how the water got switched, what ended up having effects. Look what they just recently did, y'all. Look at this.
Is weighing in on the court decision ending the criminal prosecutions in the Flint water case.
Bring in our concerned investigator, Hank Winchester, who, of course, has spent so much time in Flint since then. Live in Southfield right now. Hank, this has caused a lot of anger for the folks who lived through it.
And Devin, rightfully so. I mean, you've got an entire community of people kind of in shock right now that no one is going to be held legally responsible for what happened there in the city of Flint. Among those upset about the decision, Attorney General Dana Nessel. Flint, no justice for the vehicle city and the thousands poisoned during the Flint water crisis. This after the Michigan State Supreme Court ruling that essentially shuts down the criminal case. Now for the first time, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel on the Flint case flop.
You can try your very hardest to handle any civil or criminal matter, but it doesn't always mean you get the rulings that you want from the courts that you appear before.
Shortly after taking office, Nessel took over the case. Team Todd Flood off the job. Nessel appointing a team of well-respected vets, Worthy and Hamoud, to head up the investigation.
I know that I appointed two of the best prosecutors in the state to handle this. I knew that they handled it to the best of their ability, and they got a very bad ruling before the Michigan Supreme Court, one that they couldn't have possibly anticipated.
Ultimately, the case fell apart, and for many in Flint, it is hard to believe that no one will be held legally responsible. Nessel, too, says she is frustrated, to say the least.
My heart aches for the people of the city of Flint who were looking for criminal accountability and now aren't going to have it.
Back out here live, I did ask the AG, hey, listen, do you take some responsibility for this? I mean, after all, it was your decision to move the case into different hands after the investigation was already well on its way. She said, of course I do. But right now, she says she's focused on reading the decision, learning exactly what happened here. But Devin, to your point earlier, as you can imagine, it is just very difficult, devastating news for the people still in the city of Flint to deal with. We're live here tonight. Hank Winchester, help me, Hank.
Well, and pretty stinging from
So we're back, right? Michigan judge tosses charges against 7 people in Flint water crisis. Let me say that one more again. Michigan judge tosses charges against 7 people in Flint water crisis. As you heard in that video there, that was the decision that just came by the Supreme Court in Michigan, where the judge threw out the felony charges with 7 people in Flint water scandal. 2 of them were state health officials who were blamed for the deaths that was from the Legionnaire's disease. The dismissal was significant, but they say it didn't come as a complete surprise. A lot of people were not surprised, but a lot of people who were not paying attention, right? But there's some things I want y'all to focus on what was said in this, and I'm going to show you something as when it pertains to it. So accordingly, they said that a different judge acting as a one-person grand jury had no authority to issue indictment. Now, keep that in mind. A different judge acting as a one-person grand jury had no authority to issue an indictment. That was what the whole case was predicated on. Ever heard of a one-person grand jury? They have that there. And you're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go forward. Okay? So the judge had rejected that the Attorney General office, the efforts by them, the district court had turned them into a criminal complaint that turned them into a critical complaint or criminal complaint. They said that using the one-person jury or grand jury is the path to filing felony charges in Michigan, right? When you file in the felony charge, I'm a little tongue-tied, I don't know why, let me get some water. Felony charge, they can use a one-person grand jury. And so they claim that this was a last gasp effort to keep things afloat. Okay? Anything arising out of the invalid indictment are irreconcilably tainted from the inception. Simply put, there are no valid charges. Now, say that one more again. Anything arising out of the invalid indictment are irreconcilably tainted by inception, meaning the minute they used the one-person grand jury to start that process, according to what they said in that article, they said that was what made it invalid. So it ended up allowing for them to throw that case out. No charges. As a matter of fact, charge it to the game. Now, you seen the person in the video was the attorney. I think that's the state attorney. And then the state attorney ended up getting two other people and brought them in. Okay? But I'm going to give you more to that about that because I want you to hear from the person who was one prosecuting and hear what another sister that is observing who dealing with the same situation. And because of what ended up this Supreme Court just did, she's going to fight about some of her people that she's defending based on what ended up happening. And I want you to hear what's being said. But let's listen to what some of the people in Flint has said after this. Here's this. Be right back.
The Flint Water Crisis feels fresh for so many families that are still affected by it now that the criminal case is closed without any convictions. CBS News Detroit's Luke Laster is on your block in Flint with one of those families' story.
Do you drink the tap here now?
Hell no.
Mazan and her husband, Jonathan Green Sr., have been there since day one.
It was never intended to make it to the Supreme Court.
Hearing the news that the state of Michigan Supreme Court declined to hear appeals of charges against former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, they say is no surprise to them or their son, J.J. Green.
This is a predominantly African-American community, bro. The history tells us this is going to happen. History tells us this is going to happen, bro. They don't care about us. It's a fact.
Mazan and Jonathan say they both suffer from skin conditions they have to work around daily with certain lotions and filters to help the shower water.
My face would burn so bad, and I would get like towels and put it on my face. It was the water that was burning my face. We bought this to be able to have water.
The Green home, nearly a decade later, is now equipped with bottled water nearly everywhere in mini fridges and near the coffee maker.
Like if I want to boil some eggs or make some coffee, I'll grab some of those.
And even in the basement with a gallon dedicated to watering plants.
For somebody to misuse a whole community, you not only took out the black people, you took out white people too. You took out Hispanics, you took out Asian, you took out a whole community. Very rarely do we get our fair chance in anybody's court.
The prosecutors on this case say they plan to release what they call a full and thorough report next year, detailing the efforts they made. In Flint, Luke Laster, CBS.
All right. So you heard that, right? She said, hell no. You drink that one? Hell no. Right? She hit that note, did she? Hell no. Right? I don't drink that. Right? But once again, a situation that seemed to be, again, the United Nations got involved, said humanitarian rights and wrongs, right? But really it was about the shut off, but nothing about this, right? So the case is over. It's over with. It's about to go 10 years after January. It'll be 10 years in April. Would have been 10 years. So they just last week came with that decision, and they said there's no appeal. Okay. Now, I want you to hear the person who originally had the case before it ended up going into the person you've seen in that video, the one that was talking about it and said that they had their people, they was disappointed with the outcome. But there was people who had the case before them, and then they were newly elected, and then others two that were the, I guess you could say, the prosecutors, because they split it up. I think that person who you seen took the settlement case and allow the other two to do with the criminal. Right? Okay. All right. All right. I can't say so much, y'all. There's a lot I want to really say, but they already cut my lights off Sunday. What else they gonna do? So when I do this, once again, I'm doing this for a reason. Y'all go in this corner, y'all see what's being talked about. Nobody gonna say nothing. If you want people to sit on the wall and do stuff while you do what you do, you have to do that. Right? You got to do that. There's no getting around it, because otherwise, some of you might already know about this. Some of you might live in Detroit. Some of you might have been watching. Some of you, this might be, you didn't know all of that. What's going on? Wait till I show you. We ain't done yet, right? Let me show you something else too. It might trip you out when you see this. So, yeah, ain't that something? You heard the young man said, hey, this is the history. The history was going to tell you how it was going to come out. We knew that already, right? You heard the mother saying, well, it wasn't just us, it was other people. We have our people who sometimes we need to grab other people to give more validity to our side, right? We always need allies when they deal with us, right? We need an ally, right? Because we can't, on our own, nobody cares. Nobody won't turn an eye, bad eye. But when we say black and brown, matter of fact, you're going to hear that. You always hear that, black and brown. See, never just the black issue. Because nobody, give, sugar honey iced tea, right? Try not to, fucking shit, right? I don't give a shit, right? So we always need some additive to. We need alliance in order to put something forward. So I want you to hear the person who originally was on the case. Listen to what he says. Listen to him intently. That's what he says. Be right back.
Go to trial on.
So that momentum was already there. What
Sure.
happened then when Attorney General Nessel comes in? How did you end up separate from this case?
So, with the victor goes the spoil. I'm an old school guy. So I have great respect for Fadwa Hammoud and Kim Worthy. They're friends. They're great lawyers. They're great law enforcement people for the state of Michigan, no question. I was kind of doomed before it started, unfortunately because of politics, but that's how it worked out.
The politics being that the Attorney General just wanted her own people.
Sure.
Involved.
Well, she wanted her own people, but she also brought people from the outside in. But at the end of the day, that's all fine and well. Unfortunately, it's not fine and well for the citizens of Flint and the 146 people that passed of Legionella and the countless people that were poisoned, the babies that were poisoned with lead. They'll never get justice. They'll never get mercy. All right? And they wish they could turn back the hands of time. Just follow the money in this case. Follow the money as far as why the switch was made, how it was done. It's a tragic story, and we don't have enough time to go into the tragic part of this, but it should have never been done, that the Flint Water Plant was used to distribute water because it was never ready from the beginning. We should have just stayed with the Detroit Water. They wanted the KWA pipe. They should have just built it and left Detroit service until it was done.
What is left for the people in the Flint community who have been affected by this? I know the civil cases, there was a settlement, about $600 million. What does that translate to on an individual basis? What does that really mean for these families?
So there's going to be a large disparity between smaller pots and the larger pots. You'll see a metric system that's used. So one, what were your damages? That's going to be the big measure. Was there illness? Was there, what did you have to go through? And there'll be a judge that allocates the pot for the money for each individual and each individual claim. So, to be honest with you, it doesn't sound like a lot per individual. But I don't know. I haven't seen the breakdown, and no one has.
Based on everything you have seen in these past several years with this case, is there any doubt in your mind that a crime did occur rather than just some mistakes?
Oh, no. I showed that a crime was committed. I mean, anyone that watched the case or read the opinions of the courts, I think it was Judge Crawford and a couple others, Judge Manley and Judge Goggins, that had the preliminary exams, said that our team proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Not that that was the standard, but in my mind, no. It's like the weather person. You see a big storm coming, it's on the Doppler radar, right? And you have a duty to warn someone that that storm's coming, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to not warn anybody. I'm going to tell them not to take cover, and people die, right? That's what happened here. There was clear notice that Legionella was in the system and was getting into homes. There was clear notice that lead was leaching into water systems, into individuals' homes, and they didn't give proper notice. When they
All right, so they're not even going to hear appeal on that. But let's look at some of the things he said. Now, this Todd Flood is the one who originally had the case. As you heard him lay out there, he said, and now listen to what he said. He said it was doomed from the start, but he never explained what he meant by it was doomed from the start. Then he goes from doomed from the start, then he says, well, the prosecutor brought in their own team. And that team that she brought was placed, put the former prosecutor who lost, the prosecutor that was before the one that you seen originally, that was talking after Supreme Court made his decision, was the replacement, was a newly elected. The one that was before him, her, ran for a position, lost in the election, don't know what happened. So when the new one came in, this guy that you seen on your screen there, that Todd Flood, he was the one that was supposed to have been doing the case. Removed him from the case, brought in the new two, right? These two new people that brought in. One that had got a sister named Kim, I think Worthy, and another lady they got that came from Lebanese. They split the case up. Prosecutor took the case that was dealing with the settlement money, which is the one who you seen in the interview, and allowed the other two to be the ones that do the criminal case. But you heard what he said, right? Doomed from the start. He says, follow the money to see where the mistakes was. And he said, according to what you heard him say, that in the preliminary examination, keep that as a mental note, preliminary examination, when he was holding the case, you heard him say there was unequivocally, without a doubt, that they found, remember he said, well, was there any criminal? Yes, he said they had said. But then he said, well, I don't know because maybe it wasn't. Right? But he said the preliminary examination. Now, that was the two words you're going to have to understand. Preliminary examination, and then remember, go back to one-person grand jury. That's the difference in that case. Was that. So listen to this. Second part he's going to do. Then I'm going to show you something. Now here's the second part to what he says.
Attorney Todd Flood. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the specifics of that maneuver I mentioned, I want to talk about a statement. The prosecutor is involved in this latest attempt to revive the charges.
Sure.
Released a statement this morning saying, in part, the court decided that a process which has stood in place for over a century, one whose legitimacy the court upheld repeatedly, was simply not good enough to hold those responsible for the Flint water crisis accountable for their actions. Our disappointment in the Michigan Supreme Court is exceeded only by our sorrow for the people of Flint. So again, before we get into that maneuver, Todd, I want to look big picture. Is this essentially, as the prosecutor seemed to acknowledge, the end of the road for holding anyone accountable here?
It is. It is. I mean, any attempt would be futile. There is a Hail Mary that they could throw with regards to reviving some cases that are still within the statute of limitations. But the problem is that their team that did this investigation is tainted because they have privileged material. And you'd have to bring in a whole new team. And who's going to spend that money?
So where did things go wrong? Let's talk about that maneuver. The one-man grand jury. In layman's terms, for people who don't know the legality of all of this,
sure.
Is the Attorney General's office, the prosecutors, are they correct in saying that this is a common maneuver that is repeatedly used?
It was at one time, but it's the way that it was used is improper. The law is the law. However you want to interpret it or read it, it's clear. A one-man grand jury can be used to do an investigation, to bring the case forward. But ultimately, due process, there's a separation of powers. The government, right, has to do the charging. The judicial branch, they're not doing the charging. So here, you can do a citizen's grand jury, and they can issue a charge. But a one-man grand jury, as the statute is written and is interpreted, is to be used as an investigative tool to bring witnesses in that, if you were going after the mob, or there was witness intimidation, or there were some scary things, or it was an old case, like, we had the child killer case. There was a one-man grand jury, and you wanted to keep it going to see what you could find, but you wanted to do it behind closed doors. Here's what we did. We had a group of judges. We all sat down. It was in confidence, and we said, hey, what's the best way to bring the Flint charges forward? And it was clear to us that it was best to do it in front of a judge at a preliminary exam where we had the burden to show probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause that the defendant committed those crimes. And the reason we wanted that, we wanted transparency. We wanted the citizens of Flint to see what was going on. And we wanted due process basically to say, we could show this case past this stage. Because grand juries, there's an old adage, you can bind over a ham sandwich for murder, right, with a grand jury. So we wanted this out in front. We wanted it transparent, and we wanted basically the public to see whether or not there was enough to stick. And it did.
Back, right? So again, right? Those his words, what he said, if you're paying attention to what he said. Now, how does a grand jury work? Prosecutor studies the information, the investigators and the information they gather. They take with the individuals who are involved. The prosecutor decides whether to present the case to the grand jury. When a person is indicted, they're given a formal notice. It is believed that they have committed a crime. They inform the person, the charges are against them. A potential felony charge, a prosecutor will present the evidence to the impartial group of citizens called a grand jury. Witnesses may be called to testify. Evidence is shown at the grand jury. Outlines of the case is presented to the grand jury members. They listen to the prosecutor and the witnesses. Then they vote in secret whether they believe that there's enough evidence that exists. Charge the person with the crime. A grand jury may decide not to charge an individual. No indictment would come from a grand jury. Based upon the evidence, no indictment would come from a grand jury. All proceedings and statements made before grand jury are sealed, meaning that only the people in the room have knowledge about who said what about whom. The grand jury is a constitutional requirement for certain types of crimes, meaning it is written in the United States Constitution so that the group of citizens who do not know the defendant can make an unbiased decision about the evidence. Okay, that's the gist of what a grand jury does. So what is a one-person grand jury? Well, one-person grand jury is a judge that is appointed, that holds the case, sees the evidence, and makes the whole decision. So think about that. One person gets to see everything. The person who is being charged or charge is going to be against don't get a chance to cross witness, see who the witnesses is, and then allow them to proceed to go to trial without even seeing them. Are you following what I'm saying, y'all? Are you following what I'm saying? So the secretness of that is who's being prosecuted don't get to see witnesses, the testimonies and stuff. It's predicated whether the judge, that's what he said, the old adage is that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. But when you're doing a one-person grand jury, it's already tainted because you got one individual and they're going to be the same person who's going to hear the case. It's already prejudiced, correct? Right? It's already, right? So that's what he was laying out there, right? That's what he was saying. Because you have now I want you to hear this sister say, based on what this new, after the Supreme Court did what it did just last week or so, listen to what she says, which is going to tie into what we're talking about. Listen to Ms. Reed right back.
Jury is usually a judge, right? The judge will hear the evidence and then he'll authorize the charges. You can't do that.
Attorney Lillian Diallo is the president of the Wayne County Criminal Defense Bar Association, representing more than 400 members. Attorneys she is encouraging to file motions to dismiss cases if their defendant was charged through the one-person grand jury process.
If it's unconstitutional for one, it's unconstitutional for all. And I've always thought those grand juries were a problem.
On Tuesday, the Michigan Supreme Court said the one-person grand jury process used to charge several defendants in the Flint Water Crisis, including former Governor Rick Snyder, violates their rights by depriving the defendant of a preliminary examination where evidence and witnesses are presented in a court of law rather than in secret.
This is a blow to us in terms of prosecutorial tools and law enforcement tools that are used.
Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy says the Michigan Supreme Court ruling is a blow to a valuable tool her office sometimes uses to get reluctant witnesses to testify.
There was cases where we had children that were shot in drive-by shootings and no one wanted to come forward. We had people who were ravished with crime, victims who had been victims of violent crime over and over and over again. And we used the one-man grand jury to combat that, to get people to come forward, to assure their safety, and to get indictments so we can later prosecute in court.
But Diallo says she has always disagreed with the one-person grand jury, which she says is a blow to due process.
It takes away a key right, to confront witnesses, at least at the beginning stages, right? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Diallo says she has a case at trial right now. She's already filed a motion to dismiss as a result of Tuesday's ruling.
This is a huge thing, especially in communities that are black and brown, because they say, oh, we can't get the people in to testify. The people come in to testify for the grand juries, the same processes that you have there, you have in a preliminary exam. So I reject that 100%. That's just a way to cut corners, get people bound over so they have to stand trial without the proper due process.
Prosecutor Worthy disagrees, saying the ruling will hurt communities where crime is skyrocketing.
These are people and communities that are ravaged with crime, and not just crime, but violent, severe crime. that would go unsolved otherwise. We do anywhere from 18,000 to 20,000 cases a year. And this is a very small subset of cases, maybe 15 or 20, that we use this procedure on.
The question now, Diallo says, what happens to all those people who are in prison whose cases went through the process of that one-person grand jury indictment?
I would think if you are in prison under an unconstitutional one-man grand jury that authorized charges, you need to get out. You need to get out, and if they want to recharge it the right way and give them a preliminary examination.
Prosecutor Worthy says her office is reviewing current cases in their system to determine how to proceed. In Detroit, Amy Lang.
All right, so you heard that, right? Two lawyers, sisters. One said it's a prosecutorial tool. The other one saying it's actually a weapon to haul you in. Now, the one that said it's a prosecutorial tool, I'm getting a little tongue-tied in eating. Prosecutorial tool. Say that 5 times, right? Right? That's Kim Worthy. She's the one that tried the case against them. So just imagine that. The way you use that to get a trial without having them to witness, and you're gonna go against official mugs who got money, that got a lawyer. I ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all gonna figure it out, right? Y'all gonna figure it out. But let me give you what they say. What is a preliminary examination? Now listen what these are now. Preliminary purpose of preliminary examination is for the judge to determine whether there is probable cause to believe that a felony occurred and that the accused is the person who committed it. The judge must dismiss the charges in question if the government failed to meet the standard of proof. Bind over happens when the government meets the standard of proof for both questions. And remember, the individual that was sitting in the, what was his name, Todd? Remember, he said the judges in his preliminary examination told him he had a go. Remember? But remember, they took him out. Okay. A bind over means that the case will not be dismissed by the district court and will proceed in front of a different judge in the circuit court. A preliminary examination is not available in cases where only misdemeanor charges have been issued. In a preliminary examination, the government has to be present, witnesses to support the case. The defense will also have the opportunity to question those witnesses. This is not a trial, so it is a much shorter proceeding. The defense doesn't have to present any witnesses and often does not. Now, this is the gist of what a preliminary is. It says every single case is unique. So the decision to run or waive preliminary examination should only be made after careful consideration of the facts and applicable case law. Notably, even if the defense decides to not hold the examination, the government must also waive its right to run the preliminary examination for an effective waiver to occur. Holding a preliminary examination allows the defense to challenge and preserve witness testimony. It also gives the defense the opportunity to obtain leads for investigation. Sometimes government may add additional charges on the basis of testimony elicited during the preliminary examination. Still, the benefits can often outweigh the risks associated with running a preliminary examination. But again, each case is different, and the decision not to run or waive a preliminary examination must be carefully considered. Okay? So the question becomes, should they have went initially with the preliminary examination? Because why? When you don't do that, you refuse the right to confront witness, which is the 6th Amendment that provides that a person accused of a crime has the right to confront a witness against him or her in a criminal action. Includes the right to be present at the trial. Okay? Right to confront a witness. This is all educational purpose. I am not a lawyer. Right? So it's called actually the confrontational clause found in the 6th Amendment. Provides that in all criminal prosecution, the accused shall enjoy the right to be confronted with the witness against him. The clause was intended to prevent the conviction of a defendant upon written evidence, which is like depositions or ex parte affidavits, without the defendant having an opportunity to face his or her accuser to be put their honest and truthfulness to the test before the jury. So, when they did the one-person grand jury, can you see what happened? Can you see what happened? Can you see? Listen to her say again, prosecutor tool.
Of prosecutorial tools and law enforcement tools that are used.
Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy says the Michigan Supreme Court ruling is a blow to a valuable tool her office sometimes uses to get reluctant witnesses to testify.
There was cases where we had children that were shot in drive-by shootings and no one wanted to come forward. We had people who were ravished with crime, victims who had been victims of violent crime over and over and over again. And we used the one-man grand jury to combat that, to get people to come forward, to assure their safety, and to get indictments so we can later prosecute in court.
But
okay, you heard what she said, right? Now think about the magnitude of that case. Look at the people who you were taking. But then look who you saying you use it for under the circumstance. What the other sisters say?
Always disagreed with the one-person grand jury, which she says is a blow to due process.
It takes away a key right, to confront witnesses, at least at the beginning stages, right? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Diallo says she has a case at trial right now. She's already filed a motion to dismiss as a result of Tuesday's ruling.
This is a huge thing, especially in communities that are black and brown, because they say, oh, we can't get the people in to testify. The people come in to testify for the grand juries. The same processes that you have there, you have in a preliminary exam. So I reject that 100%. That's just a way to cut corners, get people bound over so they have to stand trial without the proper due process.
Always disagreed with the one-person.
Cash for your home? You know what that is? Billboard. What are y'all, Amos and Andy? Are you stepping and he's fetching? I'm talking about the message, what it stands for. It's called gentrification. It's what happens when the property value of a certain area is brought down. Huh? You listening? Yeah. They bring the property value down. They can buy the land at a lower price. Then they move all the people out, raise the property value, and sell it at a profit. Now what we need to do is we need to keep everything in our neighborhood, everything, black. Black owned with black money, just like the Jews, the Italians, the Mexicans, and the Koreans do.
Ain't nobody from outside bringing down the property value. It's these folks shooting each other and selling that crack rock and shit.
Well, how you think the crack rock gets into the country? We don't own any planes. We don't own no ships. But we are not the people who are flying and floating that shit in here. I know every time you turn on the TV, that's what you see. Black people selling the rock, pushing the rock, pushing the rock. Yeah, I know. But that wasn't a problem as long as it was here. It wasn't a problem until it was in Iowa and it showed up on Wall Street where there are hardly any black people. Now, if you want to talk about guns, why is it that there's a gun shop on almost every corner in this community?
Why?
Tell you why. For the same reason that there's a liquor store on almost every corner in the black community. Why? They want us to kill ourselves. You go out to Beverly Hills, you don't see that shit. But they want us to kill ourselves. Yeah, the best way you can destroy a people, you take away their ability to reproduce themselves. Yeah. Who is it that's dying out here on these streets every night? Y'all. Yeah. Young brothers like yourselves.
What am I supposed to do? Fool roll up, try to smoke me? I'm gonna shoot the motherfucker if he don't kill me first.
You're doing exactly what they want you to do. You have to think, young brother. Cash for your
Investors buy up hundreds of foreclosed Flint homes for $1.2 million, leaving residents in limbo. Let me say that one more again. Investors buy up hundreds of foreclosed Flint homes for $1.2 million, leaving residents in limbo. Okay. Yeah. Y'all hear about this? Y'all know anything about that? So give a picture of some of that president, some of that property they got over there. So investors have done something that never happened in Flint area before, buying up bundles of 234 closed occupied homes for more than $1.2 million at the Genesee County tax auction, and leaving families living in a house facing potential evictions. County Treasurer Deb Cherry said none of the property bundles offered for sale during her 13 years in office had sold previously, but during the September sale to the Life Real Estate, a group of investors who recently incorporated in Michigan bought the homes, 190 which are in Flint. We're telling people if they can to work out with the company. If they do not have questions or need advice, contact an attorney. Adi Asaf, who represent the Two Life investors, Adi Saraf, who represents the Two Life investors, said the company is aware of both the potential and the difficulties it faces after buying the homes, some of which are scattered outside the city of Flint, Grand Blanc, Montrose, and Mount Morrison Township. Let me give you that map. Let me show you this map, how they looking. Show how that map looking. Let me show that map. Let me show how that map looking, huh? That's a map of the city of those 230 homes that they got spread out through in Michigan. The homes ended up on the auction sale after the county foreclosed on them after property taxes went unpaid for at least 2 years. They said they used the bundle sale approach previously shepherded some of those properties to the county land bank with the goal of improving neighborhoods by tearing down homes in poor conditions or renovating others in selected areas. But state law requires property taken through tax foreclosures be offered at public sales like the ones last month. The land bank has allowed occupants of foreclosed property to continue living in homes until they can inspect and until arrangements are made for them to relocate or buy houses they were living in. In case of Life, people living in the 230 houses received letters from the investor group just 2 weeks ago after the auction sale, advising them to contact the company within 7 days about the rental options or be prepared for eviction. People renting who had financial difficulty would try to help. We will try to help them through the land bank. The sales will make us rethink what we do at this auction going forward. The company is assessing the condition of the homes. Occupants have called to make arrangements to become renters on a short-term basis. Some homes have no current water service. Others are without electricity, working furnace, and others are occupied by squatters. So according to this Safra, he said he's trying to work with the situation so the ground won't shake under the people's feet. I know some people were surprised to find that companies now own the house where they live. After sending letters to each address on October 1st, about 1/3 have contacted the company, each with different stories about the property they live in and circumstances that landed them there. Matter of fact, I should happen to have a video you want to hear. Check this, be right back.
I've been here 30 years. I said, well, you don't own the house no more. Dozens of people who live in Flint and Genesee County facing an uncertain future after the homes they live in were sold in a tax auction to an investor.
That includes J.D. Smith, who we introduced you to during TV5 News at 6 yesterday. He paid off his home in Flint 7 years ago, but fell behind on his property taxes after hard times. He said a representative from To Life Real Estate, the company that bought the bundle of homes, told him he could pay rent to stay in the home or move out.
And tonight we're hearing from that company, and James Felton reports what it plans to do in cases where people still live on these properties.
The intention is to renovate properties that need to be renovated, generate tax revenue, employment to the city.
That's what Haim Azizi, a manager for To Life Real Estate, had to say about the 230 Genesee County properties his company purchased for $1.4 million. On Wednesday, we told you about J.D. Smith, who used to own one of the properties purchased by To Life Real Estate. Smith wants to stay in his home. Azizi tells us he's willing to work with him.
We would love to consider him being a resident, continue being resident with the most comfort that we can, and to minimize any discomfort that could occur. You have to take in consideration that he no longer owns the house, others own it, and we have a responsibility of fixing it up and putting it back into a tax generating property.
Azizi says he's seen all 230 houses, many of which are unoccupied. According to Azizi, of the homes that do have people in them, the majority say they want to work with the company in an effort to stay where they are. When I asked Azizi if he was willing to evict people, he said,
each case will be on a case-by-case basis.
But he made it clear that would only be the last resort if other arrangements can't be worked out. That's why Azizi wants these residents to reach out and call To Life Real Estate.
We have to communicate to see what we can do. If they need more time, we are delighted to.
Reporting in Flint, James Felton, WNEM TV5.
Flint Mayor Sheldon Neely has made a proposal to Flint City Council to allocate $50,000 in ARPA funds to legal services of Eastern Michigan. That money would help residents facing foreclosure and eviction to secure legal resources. City Council did not vote on the proposal at its last meeting Monday.
About me, I've been here 30 years.
So once again, you seen the video, see J.D. Smith there, been living in his home for 30 years, done got on hard times. Again, a little bit of the history about Flint is a lot of people come there working at General Motors, right? When it was a thriving city, where a lot of people from the South went up there and they was able to build homes and families and send people to college and so forth. But then the economic floor base of the plantation left. Just like a lot of factories, when you think about from the 80s, 70s, 80s, and then they start going overseas, going for cheaper labor. So, and then the efficiencies of the cars, right? Economical cars being created. So the gas guzzler was not the option that most people were going, I mean, we as, people, black folks, right? We still like our Cadillacs and our Escalades. So, we're going to pay the price, but everybody else, so it's not a thriving business for everyone. So a lot of people lost their jobs. So what happens now? He's, according to that story, said he just purchased his home. He just paid his house out in full. What is it, 2000 and what did he say, 17? Okay, I don't know how long he had been paying his house, but that was a little less than 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And now he got to go. He said he thought I'm gonna die in here, but that's not the option he's getting. See, the company sees potential in the city. Why do they see potential? Where's all these investors coming? Remember what happened in 2013, y'all? Remember Detroit went in bankruptcy, right? So as you heard him in the video, he said that he's doing this to make tax revenue. Why is he worrying about tax revenue if he's in business for, property and selling? Why he worrying about tax revenue? So I just wondering, who is they, right? You have to probably do your research for that, right? So anyway, Councilman Eric Mays of the First Ward, he has said that the mass purchase of these homes, shelter for some of the city's poorest residents, should serve as a wake-up call that change have to be made in the current foreclosure system, right? It's going to be a mess, right? Think about that. 230 homes, and that's just this company. About all the others, I think there's a brother named Charlie Boy. Go see his videos, and you go, if you don't know too much about Flint or haven't seen Detroit, there's a channel called Charlie Boy 313. And you go look at some videos, and you can see how it's looking there, and you can see how the city has gone down because of the economic base that a lot of people relied on, especially when you talk about our people working in them plants. Right, the plantation. Even when I was doing research about it, was talking about that a lot of the problem that was happening in the plantation was that blacks and whites couldn't get along. Now, those who may be from Detroit hear me, those who know about that may know more, but that's what some of the research, because I have some family that's up there, but nobody who worked at the plant. But according to what my research said, they said that was some of the reasons that was making them to change up, because they had to split it up, because they were saying if one strike, then they always strike. So they try to make it in different locations so that they wouldn't lock up everything. So they used that as part of the reason that they actually left, because it was racial tension. Now, I remember there was a movie, for those of y'all, I like to use movies sometimes. There's a movie called with Richard Pryor in what was his Dakota, Yaphet Kota, I think his name is, right? It was called Blues Collar. Anybody remember seeing that movie, Blue Collar, where Richard Pryor, Yaphet Kota, and the one that played Hank in, was he Hank in I think he was Hank in the Mac too. I think he was Hank in the Mac too. But anyway, and that's what that was based on, because at the end, Richard Pryor and the white cat, after they killed Smokey, then he called them a nigger and tried to bust his head with a wrench, and he thought they was cool. They were partying and all that, get paid, and then they start talking about that life of being in the plantation, right? So there's a lot of people that's in Flint that, done retired and got their pension, because matter of fact, that was one of the biggest reasons was the bankruptcy that happened, is because a lot of that pension money they had to come up with, and being $18 to $20 billion in the hole, they had to come up with that money for that. So that's what ended up coming in, bringing in the emergency manager, came in, restructured everything. And so basically Detroit became an investor's paradise. And so when you do your research and find out that when they do a Chapter 9, when it comes to municipalities and cities, what ends up happening is certain things become available for grab. And so as you see here, 230 homes at one time for 1.3. Just imagine that, y'all. Here we always be talking about our people and say, hey, why don't you go and buy the community up? Now think about that. $1.3 million to get 230 homes. So that means some of our people who got some bread, this would be a good opportunity. It's basically it could be a land grab, but I don't know if everybody has the opportunity for it. Maybe you have to be, again, associated, connected somehow. Not just anybody who got money. Because see, some of our people believe all money is good money. Because there's a gap between ages where those who are younger thinking that, well, y'all didn't do nothing because y'all didn't, apply yourself, or you didn't have the knowledge and so forth. But money wasn't, the number may be bigger, but I think equivalent to dollar worth is maybe less than, what I'm saying? We got more for the dollar back at one time than you get the dollar for the day. Maybe, 2 for 1 on one now. Back then, it was like $1 could get you more. I mean, if I could just sit here and say, like, for $1, going to say when you was a kid, for $1, you could get a lot. Back in the day, we had penny candy, right? Going to school. Now, I don't know where you come from. I was in the hood, right? We had a candy store down there. You go down there, and with $1, I'm eating candy all the way damn near to the end of the day. I got a bag of candy. You know how you're in the classroom, somebody smelled an annihilator in your mouth. Let me get one. So you passing candy out, right? So, for $1 could stretch. I tried that today with a kid. Yeah, you're lucky to get a Snicker probably over $1, right? So, you know what I'm saying? The dollar don't stretch as far, but the number big, and motherfuckers think he got way more money, but money don't really stretch like that. But just imagine those who got that kind of economics go and buy 230 homes for $1.3 million when a lot of them waste that kind of money. And look what you could do in something like this, in investors in paradise. Should that be something that some of our people should be looking towards to do? Or do they even know that, right? And then if they do know that, can you get it? And if you get it, can you do what you want to do it is to help with yours? See, there's a lot of questions to that, right? So, it matter 230 homes, a package deal, tax lien sale. You just, for 1.3 million. So just imagine the average home. Let's say if the average home is, okay, I know that's Flint because, okay, let's say, I don't know. Maybe I should have did a research to see what is the average home. Let's just say, let's say 150 to 250, 150,000 to 250,000. Let's just, that's a low, maybe low ball, maybe, but just say, in times, okay, 230. Right? You got that's a grab. Huh? Matter of fact, do you not know when you go do the research? You know what the name of the bankruptcy called in Detroit? The Grand Bargain. Let me say that one more again. If you go do the research, go look up Grand Bargain, because that was the name of the bankruptcy, the Chapter 9 that they filed, the biggest in the history of the United States of a city going bankrupt, is Detroit. It was called the Grand Bargain. Just like we just said, 233 homes for 1.3 million. Man, you have 1.3 million, you got 233 property. Imagine playing Monopoly and you got the green side, the blue side. Let's say the blue, red. No, let's say the blue. No, you don't want the blue. Well, they have Parkside, and there's the dark blue, the red, and the yellow. All they got is down there on the project in Connecticut. That's all they got. Well, you gonna make all the damn money. Well, you should make all the damn money. But but the point is, where's our insiders at? Because I want to talk about something before I get up out of here, about how like 1.3 million could do a lot for a lot of families with the 233. But see, did you see who it was that was running it and talking about, oh, we'll work with you? But did you look who it was? Now, again, this isn't about being racist. It's like, look who it is. Look who it is. But look at who are the people that have their hands in dealing with the case and then get the outcome. You got to look at all the little, minute things in there. I laid some things out. Maybe somebody get, maybe you won't get it. Like I said, I'm saying so much, but you ain't go back to the hockey part. But anyway. So, right, so here it is. You can get that 1.2 million for 233 homes. And so what kind of catastrophe is that going to create as time go on? We're going to hear about this, y'all. We're going to hear about what happened in Flint and what those of us who cut from the cloth, being Black Americans, Indigenous Americans, Aboriginal Americans, Black Americans, whatever you call yourself, and our people who are tied up in there in the Detroit areas that have been affected by it, we're going to be hearing about this. We got the problem with the what happened with the water and with the children, and then the people who are going to be displaced because they got nowhere to go. So what is the end game? What is really what is Mortimer and them? What are they formulating here, y'all? Then you got the influx that's been happening. Some of the stories I've been doing earlier, the influx with the migration and so forth, right? So slowly but surely, we're being shepherded to a direction, being shuffled. And I'm going to talk about those of you who got money, those of you who are educated and believe that you are, let's say, what they call it, classism. So you don't believe in racism, but you believe in classism. We're going to talk about it. You don't believe in racism, but you believe in classism. But I got something for you, right? So, how about this? So with all that happened, that took place from 2013 to get to last week to get the decision to say that, okay, well, charge it to the game. There was a fault in the process. People losing their homes, can't pay, don't have an economic floor, can't seem to get no help. I went to the church. I went to their church. You want to hear this sermon? Listen to this real quick. Be right back.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll just bow your heads in prayer, we shall now pray for the governor. Oh Lord, let the governor have a 17-car accident with a gasoline truck that's been hit by a match wagon over the Grand Canyon. And if that's not bad enough for the governor, let the ambulance that's taking him to the hospital wear 4 flat tires. Let the motor crack, let the block bust, let the windshield crack, let the driver have a stroke and a hemorrhage and run into a brick wall, Lord, that's housing nuclear warheads and TNT, Lord. And if that's not bad enough for the governor, when he get to the hospital, let the doctor be a junkie with a gorilla on his back and a orangutan in his room, and let the hospital catch on fire, and let the hospital ceiling cave in on the operating table, and let the doctor have a rusty scalpel in his hand. Oh Lord, Lord, if that's not bad enough for the governor, Lord have mercy. Let him be stranded in the Sahara Desert. 10,000 miles of dry sand, eyeballs bulging, tongue swollen, lips cracked, crawling on his hands and knees. And let him come up on a cool running fruit stand of frosty fruit juice in that hot desert, and let them have a black waiter back there, Lord, like they always have. And if that's not bad enough for the governor, Lord have mercy, let lightning strike him in the heart 38 times. Let muddy water run in his grave, and let possums, 14 of them, suffering from hydrophobia, eat through the casket looking for some new meat and make him so ugly until he will resemble a gorilla, Lord, sucking hot Chinese mustard, lying across a railroad track with freight trains, 22 of them running across his kneecaps. And if that's not bad enough for the governor, Lord, make him suffer, make him live in agony. When he wake up tomorrow morning, Oh Lord, let him have nappy hair and be black like me.
That was the sermon. They were talking about the governor, right? Y'all could be say amen, huh? Amen, amen, right? Right? So, so like I say, man, our brothers and sisters that's in Detroit, Flint areas and all those, and the things that's taking place, I mean, like I said, man, we will be observing and seeing as time go on how that's going to manifest itself. Again, we know there is some kind of big something happening in this land, and we know how it normally go, right? And so we got to look at it like this, y'all. When you're talking about a Fortune 500 company, and if you look at the Fortune 500 companies in this land since 2000, they say about 52% of them have gone bankrupt, been acquired, or ceased to exist. But I got a question for you. The game of race is kind of like a business and a corporation when you working collectively, right? It's like a business and corporation. But see, the problem is we never had a black business and we never ran our black corporation. Let me say that one more again. We never ran our own black business, and we don't run our togetherness like a corporation. See, what we do is we allow occupier agents to run our shit. And what we do is we give our damn talent to everybody else so that they can make money. And so it creates this so-called, let's say, they say a lot of people don't believe in racism because you don't believe in, say, color. I'm beyond that. That's beneath me. I'm educated. I'm social. I have more money than you. That's just another way to separate us. So you get away from your own damn people and thinking that, oh, the ice is colder, the grass is greener over there. But then when they start to consolidate and start saying, we don't want you around, where you gonna go then? Always is better somewhere than around our own. We're gonna pay for that. See, we never ran our business. And what we did is we allow other people in the name of us to bankrupt our damn corporation. We let other people of our skin, not our kin, but this ain't about hatred, y'all. Imagine you the dominant people in the land. This your business. This your corporation. But you allow other people to run it as if they don't got their own agenda. Don't they say they come here for a better life? They come here to bring everything, and then when they get their own areas. Again, this is not about separation divide. I'm just saying, wham to the black business, wham to the black corporation, when we should have been running our own shit. No, we got tricked. We got tricked out of that. See, like a Fortune 500 company, how they say they running bankrupt. Well, that's what they do. See, what you do is you get acquired by other people who run your shit in the ground. They take all the finances, and eventually to get your business not to exist anymore. Now we waking up to find out our business don't exist, our shit don't exist, our corporation don't exist, and we scrambling now. And everybody else know they done squeezed all the juice out of it, and they're gonna watch us as whoever is hurting us to wherever they're trying to put us. Because one thing is, everybody that I see that's ready to jump ship off of the Biden train, you automatically giving Trump your vote. Why? Why can't you say, well, offer me something? You want it? Give me something for it. Why you automatically, he get it? Because then when he get it, he ain't offered. He didn't have to give you it for nothing. We always been giving it for nothing. When we gonna start saying quid pro quo? in exchange for something. You want it, what you gonna give us? See, they don't want to give you that. Those who want to play the politics game, right? You playing that game. But everybody saying now they start, the black vote is now starting to swing and it's starting to become red. But ain't nobody told you nothing yet. Why not hold it? Say, I ain't with nobody till somebody come and offer me something. Keep giving shit away for free. Everything you get, everybody come in. They take it and say, you didn't create it. We did it together. And the next thing you know, they usurping it. They want to get them up. They the one over there patenting your shit. You work for them. And then they get it to the point that you got to be allies with them to get work. That's why you don't see when they talk about that Latino black aspect, when they say about hip hop, that's why they all in the industry don't say nothing. Because they can't, because if they do, they cut their economic floor from out of them. They're like the actors can't say nothing because they cut the economic floor from them. So that's why when you see me, I throw something up in the, when I throw this up in the air, who else gonna tell you this? Who else likes getting cut off? Who else in here showing this? You can go all the other channels you want. They ain't gonna say nothing. They're not gonna say nothing. So it's like socialism, capitalism. See, those are people who made it, got education and money. You're capitalists. So you become just like them. Socialism is a bunch of individual people trying to get collectively together to work as a unit as one, to get what? Our black business, our black corporation back together. But when you're a capitalist, it's your individual selfish ass. It's all about you and just yours. Well, you want to be the only motherfucker on moon with them by yourself? That what you want? Because you gonna get it. If we don't do something about this shit, you think you done, what they say, you don't work during the winter time to store for the storm. And your brothers and sisters in them ain't got nothing. So I guess they just gonna fucking perish. And you say, well, y'all gone. Then think about this. When it's just you and a handful of you, what you think life gonna be like? Think about that. What life gonna be like then? You know, in the beginning of my video, when you hear this, you remember this? Because remember that this was in the black exploitation. But remember Willie Dynamite when he said this? Hold on, let me give it to y'all one more again. Hold on, before I get up out here. Huh? What would he say?
I want to deal with a bigger insult, man. The heat. It's coming down hard. We got to get our shit together. Now, we always been loose. Dealing off the turf like it was never gonna run dry, that ain't no business. No other game is run so disorganized. Look around. Everything that is taking care of business is together. Dig it tight. And together. Except us. Right. And now we feeling the heat. And the action's gonna get scarce and the turf is gonna get hard.
What are you saying, Bill? Now, we've seen these times before.
Never so heavy as now.
Well, I don't see any other way other than to ride it out.
There is a way. We organize.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.